Good morning.
Good morning. It's Father's Day, so we're going to talk about celebrating Father's Day. Today's June 15th, I think, right? June
Yes,
15th?
and I want to say right from the
20.
beginning that Father's Day is a labor well worth it to become a father.
All right, we're going to let you talk about that,
Oh
Bob.
no. Oh yes. So we've both been thinking a lot about Father's Day, and because we only one of us can be a father, and I decided I would do that. But what I looked at when I looked at Father's Day in relationship to our lesson today is that there are really two things that are operating if we don't realize it. And this is in A Course in Miracles, and I love it, which is two major emotions. One is fear, and the other one is love. And if you reduce all of our love, our life behaviors emotionally to one of those two, you realize how often we're being run by fear rather than being run by love. How that fits into fatherhood for me, and this is just my experience. I didn't grow up in a happy family. I grew up where there was a lot of survival issues, and surviving seemed to be the major thing to do. And so I didn't perceive that there was very much love. I perceived that everybody was doing the best they could just to survive. And I think once I look back at it, there was love, but it was hard to see because of the ongoing battles for just getting along, finding a meal, having a place to live. And so I grew up with that. And so when my wife, different wife, said, I want to have a child, I thought, oh my God. And what happened to me immediately was fear. And the fear was, I can't do this. And the fear is like, I mean, physically I can do it, but I can't do this fatherhood thing because I mean, I don't know how to. It's not going to work. Children are difficult and impossible. They need to be changed and washed and fed and all that good stuff. And I thought, I can't do it. Well, she was persistent, and we did have a child. Now, how I'm viewing this is everything having to do with being a father has to do with fear. And then he's born. And the day that he's born, I get to hold him, and everything changes. Now, for some reason, probably oxytocin in the brain, I'm feeling love like I've never felt before and connection like I've never felt before. And parenthood is going to be something I can do. And it didn't, it had many of the same survival struggles. How do you make enough money to support you, your wife, and a child? How do you manage the child care? What shifts do you work so you can be home when you need to be? I mean, it's just, how do you put everything in the house out of reach? There was a time when you set something down, you could find it. And that only happens when you don't have children and before you get very old. Then you can't find anything. But so this is kind of actually we're at a point now where it's like having children again. What happened to that? Did one of the kids take it? No, we don't have kids anymore. They're all grown up. But what happens is that you learn to accommodate because there's love operating rather than survival. That doesn't mean there isn't survival, but survival takes a back seat. And why that's important is I think so much in our world today, when fear gets stirred up, love gets shut down. And we look at us versus them, we look at good versus bad, we look at life in a black and white world, and we protest and we protest. And I don't mean we shouldn't protest, but strange as it might seem, we need to protest with love. We need to protest not for survival. And one of the most impressive things for me this weekend, and I realize we're walking on the edge of political values here, were to see 20, 30, 40,000 people crammed together on city streets on hot days, not hurting each other, fighting for something that they wanted, that they believed was important, but not with fight in their hands and not with sticks and stones and guns. And so I think the real demonstration for me in everything having to do with fatherhood and with the fatherhood of our planet is how can we take a stand and not have to be violent? How can we take a stand with love and still take that stand? And I think historically what's happened is when you approach something with love, people say you're a wimp, or they call you a pussy, or they call you something that shouldn't be derogatory, but it is. They name you in some sort of way. You're a liberal. That's another euphemism for you're weak. When we can approach everything with love and ask what love would do, and that doesn't mean we don't take a stand. We can take a stand in every area of our life. Anyway, that's it. So I'm going to go do something else now.
Okay, now I can go back to the beginning, okay?
Sure, sure. Well, I had to say that because once you get rolling, I'll forget everything.
We did say this is mainly your talk since
Yeah, right. It's Father's
you
Day.
know about fatherhood.
I'm the one in charge. Is that okay?
Yes, indeed. But I'd like to start with a little bit of
That was
history. I always think it's interesting.
yeah.
Anyway, I hope you'd find it interesting. But how did Father's Day start?
With a
And
father first.
with the father, it started in 1909, not officially, but that's when Sonora Smart Dodd heard a sermon about Mother's Day and thought that fathers deserved a similar recognition. Her own father, William Jackson Smart, was a Civil War veteran and a single parent who raised 6 children on his own after his wife died in childbirth. She did her duty. Deeply moved by his devotion, Sonora proposed a Father's Day celebration to be held on June 5th, her father's birthday. The idea took root, and the first Father's Day was celebrated June 19th in 1910 in Spokane, Washington. But it wasn't until 1966 that President Lyndon Johnson issued the first presidential proclamation honoring fathers, designating the third Sunday of June as Father's Day. And in 1972, President Richard Nixon signed it into law, making Father's Day a permanent national holiday. I think that's interesting because we always celebrated Father's Day, and that would be before Lyndon Johnson, but I guess they had to make it official.
Formalized, yeah.
Formalized it.
And I've made a governmental proposal. I've written it up carefully, sent it to the president. We need Father's Month.
Okay, Father's Month now.
Right.
Yes, indeed. Well, it is, of course, fitting that we honor Father's Day, and today I'm thinking about our spiritual father as well as our natural father. And with all the chaos going on in our country, it's very easy to get wrapped up in, guess what, of those two emotions, the fear part, the fear that things are not the same as they used to be and not the way they should be, and fear of what it will become and all of that. And while those are natural human emotions, we want to bring ourselves to the spiritual level, not the human fearful level, because fear is never helpful for us spiritually. Um,
I want to interrupt just for a second and say that often we don't know we're afraid because we think because anger is a very powerful emotion. So very often when something bad happens, we meet it with anger and we don't realize that behind anger is fear. And so what we can do is every time we're angry is to say, what would love do here?
well, true, but what really impressed me with things that I was reading and listening to this week was the idea that while things may look to us like they're falling apart, in fact, we are evolving, and we are evolving the way to the way it should be, which is universal harmony and love and a greater God awareness. Now, that's hard for us to see in the midst of chaos, but the source I was reading and listening to says, yes, and so that's why you have to trust. And I had found myself getting really all wound up about all of this, and the message was just trust and be set free. And of course that reminded me that all of my worrying and fear only creates more of what I don't want in my life. The law of attraction is always working. So what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling attracts to me in like kind. I don't want that. I don't want attracted to me what I fear. And so, this idea, this concept of just trust that the world is unfolding exactly as it should. Because, these sources that I read say we really are evolving. We are evolving to a much higher place, a much higher level. And yet it's got to, before you can get there, there has to be destruction of what is. And that's hard for us to accept and acknowledge. But so I have chosen for myself to trust that the world is unfolding exactly as it should. No doubt, as Desiderata says. I'm sure most of our audience is familiar with Desiderata. It is was found in a church, an old church building, and nobody knows exactly who wrote it, but it was found on the wall of an old church building. As a matter of fact, I have this somewhere, but I want to read to you some of it for those of you who I think I've got it here. I have it in a way that I can't read.
They can look it up.
You can look it up. Desiderata. And but it says, to avoid the chaos and upset of the world, it just avoid loud people. They are a vexation to your soul, and to just trust and know that all is well in your world, and no doubt that the world is unfolding exactly as it should. So that can be hard to do in the face of what we're witnessing and not appreciating. But I think it's an important spiritual reminder.
Mhm.
Trust that all is well, all is unfolding, and I'm safe. We were even reminded that don't worry about how are we going to do this and how are we going to do that and how is it going to work out. Just release all that and know everything's unfolding exactly as it should.
And it doesn't mean not to take positive action in the direction of the outcome you would like. It's not passive. It's not just sitting back and waiting for something good. No, I'm not going to worry. I'm just going to trust the process. No, trust the process and move in the direction of the process that you believe in, and move lovingly and move with kindness and move with the ambition, knowing that all good things will follow. So we position ourselves with change to be a part of the change in as positive a way as we possibly can. And that is probably, again, more the masculine approach to peace in the world, is to be ready for action, but to be ready to enter into it with kindness and with love and with empathy and with compassion. And typically when we see things being done, I mean, I think we don't have to go too far to see examples of this now, where people are saying we need to save more money. Well, the question is, can we save money with compassion, or do we save money indifferent to people's needs and wants? And when we're indifferent, the rage and the anger and the hurt comes from people feeling disqualified and disarmed and abandoned. Do we need to abandon the people that we love in order to help ourselves, or can we not abandon them and help ourselves as well? And so we have to, if we can, we want to walk through this whole trail of difficulty that we're a road of difficulty that we're facing with love and compassion and empathy. And if we do that, it'll be, I think there'll be less damage. And I think when there is damage, we'll be more eager to repair it rather than deny it, or simply say that's what happens. I hear from time to time people talking about when people are killed in combat, it's what they call it. Actually, people that aren't supposed to be shot. That's what happens. There's a name for that. Collateral damage. What I think is interesting about the whole word of collateral damage is that collateral friendly fire. Yeah, that's one friend. One of our members just toasted it for me. Collateral damage or friendly fire is not friendly, and people are not collateral. When people are killed because we don't care, or because what we believe is important is more valuable than how can we approach this with love and compassion. It doesn't mean there won't be people that are killed, but let's not pretend they're just collateral. Let's enter into every relationship that we have with love, compassion, and empathy. And I think what that means is also take a step back, go slow.
I also saw a comment from one of our attendees who says, "Be the change you want to see in the world," and
Yeah.
I believe that comes from Gandhi.
Yeah.
I believe that was his statement: "Be the change you want to see in the world." And so often we have to mirror that and start that process. Um, but back to fathers.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
fathers have an impossible task, and yet they don't know how to do it, and and they all do the best they can, and many of them admirably. I wanted to share a couple of quotes. This one says, when I was a boy of 14, my father was so ignorant, I could hardly stand to have the old man around. But when I got to be 21, I was astonished at how much he had learned in those 7 years. That's by Mark Twain. And when we're teenagers, our parents know nothing.
Yeah, please leave me at the corner. I'll walk the rest of the way.
Yes.
I don't want to be seen with you in your station wagon.
That happened to me, by the way. But anyway, and Barack Obama said this: what makes you a man is not the ability to have a child, it's the courage to raise one, to guide with humility, to show up without fanfare, to sacrifice your own ease for the sake of someone else's future. That is the quiet greatness of fatherhood.
That's why I didn't want to do it.
It is not a role of perfection, but one of presence.
Yeah.
So, and so I certainly honor my father today. And he wasn't perfect, but he did, all in all, a very good job and worked very hard for all of us. And we honor that male principle of action.
Mm-hmm.
That when we think of male, female, the female is receptive, the male is active. And we need that. I was telling Bob, I can't imagine a man today, and this is happening, and it's hurting our population, saying, yes, I want to be a father, and I want to have all the answers and make all the money necessary that this child will need through college and whatnot. It's a daunting task, and women are even now deciding not to. So our population is actually a problem. It's so hard for me to believe, because when I was getting out of high school, the big world problem is how are we going to solve world overpopulation? Right. Yes. And now it's a world underpopulation. We're not replacing ourselves. So let's encourage those fathers.
So Judith and I have made a commitment to have some more kids. It's going to be hard. I was thinking when you were talking about that, though, when we got a dog, and the day we brought him home, he was so precious. And then the night when he couldn't sleep because he cried all night long, I thought, why have we done this? What are we thinking? And I went down into the basement floor where we all said it was all finished, and had a mattress on the floor, and he and I slept together for the first week on the floor in the basement, and so that if he got up and had an accident, it wouldn't be in the bedroom or in the house. And I thought, what you go through when you love something. Yeah, and he never did stop sleeping with us.
It's true. Oh, this is true. This is true.
No, so with every labor of love, there is great joy, and there is also toil and difficulty and all kinds of challenges. But we want to be careful. We don't try to avoid life while trying to live it.
Exactly. So, um, I I think let's share our
Did you do share screen?
yes.
Okay, we can do this. We're just waking up. Okay, here we go. Share. Ah, yes, here we are. Go ahead.
So this is a picture of our website, and at the top of it, there's a little button with an arrow on it there that says ways to donate. And we know most of you listening, but many of you join us later and watch this later. And this is a way for you to support the center financially, because there are many costs in running a corporation, keeping a corporation running, and we appreciate your donations.
Yeah, I always think when we show this, I mean, immediately a flashback to PBS, and they're
right,
and they're asking for money, and which, by the way, if you can support PBS, they're in a tough spot right now.
Yeah, that's what I listen to all day long. But at any rate, this is our cslpalmbeaches.org is our website address. That's where you go. And we would like for you to share with us and say aloud this affirmation of prosperity. My investment today is made with the
With
full
full
realization that God is the source of my supply and returns it to me enriched and multiplied. And so it is. In other words, knowing as we give, we also do receive. It is a law of circulation. And so we don't have to worry about when we give money, what are you doing?
Stop recording.